Hey, welcome to the Adam the Jersey Guy show, where I'm Adam, obviously the Jersey Guy, and where we talk about generally everything and anything, basically on life, health, and whatever else it might be. The last time around, we were talking about the Zepbound, and this is the second part that I'm going to do about that, about my journey or experience, or as I said in the last episode, my quest. um, we're talking about basically, I get mine through the VA, and just kind of funny that we talk about that because yesterday I put in for a refill of the 5 milligram, and basically I've never seen anything so fast in my life because the first time I had to wait about almost 14 days or so to get my first shipment of the 2.5 milligram. I just sent my pharmacist a email and I said, listen, I just want to stick with the 5 milligram because I think it's helping out. And she was like, okay, let me put a request in for that. No sooner than I get up to go by my door this morning, I see this mail lady coming up and she's bringing a box. Turns out it was my second shipment. Less than 24 hours later, after I sent that email, the package already arrived. I was like, oh my lord. And that is like, one thing about the VA, they don't bullshit around when it comes to that. They are like super fast with getting this stuff back to you. Once the ball gets rolling, you put your request in, it's going to be there pretty much within either a day or a couple of days. So anyway, let me touch base. Just so you know, I'm not any kind of a doctor and I'm not no like medical professional. I'm just basically giving you my own personal opinion. By the way, they talk about a lot of having water. I like to make sure I have something really big, a 64 ouncer. Because you can never have too much. But anyway, I'm not going to give like full medical advice on any of this stuff. Because, you got to just make sure people don't say, like, well, what medical profession are you in that you can tell everybody how to do this stuff? Just my personal experience with this medication. And this is going on week 3 now. I'm into week 3. I had just taken my second shot of 5 milligram on Saturday of last weekend. And so far, I mean, I can just go as far as to say, no major issues with side effects. I definitely didn't notice anything like, the nausea. There was an episode where I felt like you get like, it was like you woke up in the morning on occasion where you had this sensation like someone punched you in the stomach and you had that after effect. It felt like that just for a little while, but it was very brief, not long lasting, and I equated that to the fact that it could be the medication because your digestive system obviously slows down, so you're not going to have, as time goes on, you're going to develop a little bit more of the medication where the effects start to take, you'll start to notice the changes, if you will. At first, I was just like, okay, I still have an appetite, still got the food noise, but then what I learned is that these things have like a 5-day half-life, this medication. So basically, let's just say you have 20% left in your system from the previous week. When you take your next dose, it's going to stack on top of that. So that would put you back higher up. So it's like you're building this up as you go along. And the more it builds up, the more that the medication will finally start to work. So what I'm learning now is that don't expect it to always work the minute you change. Sometimes people change a dose and all of a sudden everything is fine. I took the second dose and like within a few days I started to definitely notice a difference. I'm like, okay, now last few days I'm starting to see where I can go for a while without eating. You still think about the food a little bit, but it's not like, in the earlier doses. So I definitely feel like I'm getting a benefit of it now, and I'm feeling full after eating. Like I had a couple of, basically a couple of eggs and 3 little sausage links, like the breakfast sausages. that was it. And I almost, with the eggs themselves, I just felt like I didn't even know if I was going to be able to finish it. I'm like, you know what? I'm like really not eager to eat this whole thing. And I'm sure many of you out there might have heard that. But it was pretty amazing. So I'm like starting to see the effects of that. Constipation has not been an issue. And the reason for that is because ahead of time I made sure I did a little bit of research on that. And one of the keys is to get some sort of a fiber. And I take Miralax at night. So that definitely makes a big difference the next day. So the only thing I might have run into on one occasion, and I think it was might have had something, just a little small item of a fried piece of food, and I think that's what did it. Had like a small case of diarrhea, but that was about it. Short-lived, wasn't no long-term thing. Everything seems to be overall good, normal again in my book, in terms of bowel movements and stuff like that. Didn't have any other kinds of nausea. I don't have the chills anymore. Haven't had that in the last few shots. So I think that might be some people get that all the time, every time they take the shot, and some people don't see it at all. So that it all depends on the individual. But it's definitely something that I've noticed is like it picks up as it goes along. So if you're not seeing the result right now, if you just switch to a new dose, give it a little time, because it might take 2 to 3 doses before you start to see that titration work in your favor. But some people, what they'll do is they'll take it for a week and they're like, that ain't working. And then they'll go up to the next dose. And some of these people outside the VA, they'll wind up getting medications, and because their doctor is just like, hey, as long as your insurance is covering it and stuff like that, just bump you up to the next level. I believe in, and thankfully my pharmacist also, she believes in, if you got a dose that's working for you, stick with it. Don't believe in, changing people and going up a dose at a time, because I've seen so many people out there that have said, I wish I stayed at the 5 milligram for at least a few months instead of just jumping right to the next one. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to build this point where you get to the 15 milligram and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, I've been to everything I've been to so far now. I was doing good and I think I've gotten used to it or something. So she was really good about that and basically kept me at the dosage that's working for me. And if I think it's still doing well, then I'll stick with it. I was down to 226. So after 6 weeks, I went from 240, and I'm just getting ready to inch my way into the 225 zone. So hopefully even by the weekend, I might even see, 225, 224. Give or take, I'm going to say it's about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds a week, which is kind of right where I want to be. There are people out there that like to jump down to these, jump to these numbers. Like, I'd like to see between 3 and 4 pounds a week. That's too much. That's when you get that Ozempic face, as they call it, where you just look like a walking skeleton or Skeletor, that guy that was from whatever the cartoon was in the 80s, Inspector Gadget or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, you don't want to go fast with this. The slower you go, the more easier your body could adapt to it. So that's definitely one of the things that I would have to say, for my opinion, in terms of take it slow and easy and be patient. As my mother used to say, Rome wasn't built in a day. So you definitely want to take your time with this and don't be in a big rush to get anything done. My appetite, though, as I said, it is better. I'm eating more disciplined. I stick with the proteins. Always make sure you're getting your proteins. Always make sure you're getting some sort of fiber. Your water intake has to be good. And a little bit of carbs definitely goes a long way. You don't need a lot. You just need just enough carbs just to kind of give your body a little bit of natural energy. And what you want to do is stay away from the sugars. I use monk fruit. That it looks exactly like, granulated sugar, but it's a world of difference. It's healthier for you, and it's not that processed sugar that you get, like cane sugar. So that has definitely been something that's very important. And what I guess the other thing is I'm trying to see here. I don't know if I'm gonna if I hit a plateau yet, but they're gonna happen, and I've been told this. They will happen. You're gonna see things like that. It's not something to be discouraged by. Sometimes if your body loses weight too fast, it winds up being an issue of it kind of goes into a defense mode, so to speak. It basically gets to where you're trying to preserve, your body thinks you're going into starvation. Like, okay, why are we losing all this weight so rapidly? It's like willing to go along with the game. Like, okay, let's lose a little bit of weight. And then all of a sudden, like, hey, wait a minute. This is going a little too fast. Then it starts getting into the protection mode. And then all of a sudden, you're not losing any weight. But don't worry about that. It's just like anything else. You'll go down, 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 right? And then you'll level off, and then eventually you're going to wind up losing it again. One of the things that I did learn also was that you can have it where you lose the weight, and you'll see the scale go like, it'll look like, say for instance, 225, and then all of a sudden it'll go to 224, and then it'll go to 226, and then it'll drop down. Like it kind of goes up, down, down. Like something like that would be the better way to describe it. And it's okay. You're going to see that happen, and it's basically the thing is, don't be discouraged by it. This is something that I've learned. You're gonna have, you're gonna run into all these little nuances as you go along. I definitely drink a lot of water, but I don't overdo it. I know they'll tell you things like, drink. I've heard stupid things as drink as high as 1.5 gallons or more a day. That's too much. I've said in the last video, basically all you want to do is make sure you're getting adequate water throughout the day. This bottle gives me 64 ounces. And if I get a little bit more in between that, sometimes what I'll do in the afternoon when I go to the gym, I make I use the clear protein. I make one of those right before I go to the gym, and that's in a 12-ounce bottle. And then I drink that after the workout, just to give myself that protein recovery. And once I'm done with that, so I figure maybe that just jumps it up another 8 ounces. But if your urine is like pale yellow, that's right where you want to be. If you got this super clear, basically it's your body telling you you're getting too much water. You don't need all that. I don't think anybody really needs all that. Just like they say, you should have 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight you are. I'm finding out that 100 up to 100 grams a day is working fine. For me anyway. I started at 240. Protein is protein. Sure, could you use a little bit more? Yeah, I'm sure you can. But you also don't want to overdo it, in my opinion. But, I mean, everybody's different. But don't always feel that you have to have... I don't know. Maybe it's just, like I said, I'm not a medical professional. I just feel that 1 gram of protein per body weight would seem kind of high. So what, you're telling me that I would have needed 240 milligrams or 240 grams of protein? That's like, how many protein shakes I would have to have just alone just to have that kind of a number? I keep it at average. If I can go a little over 100 grams, great. Otherwise, it's not like my target. I got to go over that. 100 satisfies me. You got to see what works for you. But definitely, just stick to a high level of protein as much as you could, because muscle mass goes down the tubes once you do this. So you definitely want to make sure that you're getting adequate loss of protein. I also like to, as I've mentioned in the past, I like to prep my meals. So every weekend, I take like a vacuum sealer and I make prepackaged meals. It's like, for instance, a simple thing would be, I might make myself a natural turkey burger with ground turkey, season it however I want. I take some fresh green beans, saute those, and maybe like a little small side of rice, and I package all that together, vacuum seal it, and I may make a few of those, and then maybe the next one might have either fish or chicken in it with something similar, vacuum seal it. When I come home after work, I put the boil in the bag, right, in the pot, 20 minutes, I got a freshly made meal. That's it, done. No, and it's pre-coordinated already. It's like I already pre-portioned it, so I already know exactly what I'm going to be eating. Covers my grounds. Definitely would recommend that. And yeah, by the way, again, going back to, if you feel constipated, you basically want to bump up your fiber. If you got more diarrhea, probably want to go with what they call that brats. We eat bananas, rice, apples, and what the heck is the other part of it? Or even cheese can bind you up a little bit. Definitely do that. That can help offset that a little bit. If you really get a case of the runs, just take an Imodium. I mean, that'll slow it down fast. If you feel like you're getting an upset stomach or anything like that, they tell you could eat peppermint. I take a ginger capsule. Take one of those, and believe it or not, that'll calm it down after a short period of time. I think that definitely works wonders. Calms it naturally, or you could eat fresh ginger, but if I like that, especially when I would eat sushi. I always like to put a piece of the fresh ginger on top of that. That's just a thing for me. But I mean, capsule or whatever form you could take, that's perfectly fine. And then you got a lot of those will tell you, well, if you have diarrhea, take a lot of electrolytes and stuff like that. Now, I mean, if you have an episode, it's probably not a big deal. Plus, you're drinking a lot of water anyway. If you're drinking the water you should be drinking, you don't got to go crazy on electrolytes. Based on the foods you're eating, you're probably getting a good amount of sodium intake as well. Especially, I eat a lot of these beef jerky sticks during the day. Like, I'll have like 3 or 4 of those, and cheese. That's all got salt in it. So one way or another, you're getting plenty of water and you're getting sodium intake. So that's definitely going to cover your grounds there. So don't feel the need that, you got to drink Gatorade or not Miralax, what's that? I don't know, like I'm losing my train of thought. The Pedialyte, the stuff for children. You could take stuff like that too, but it's, in my opinion, it's really not necessary unless you get low sodium and you're not drinking enough water, which you should be doing, because that's part of the whole curriculum, the discipline part of it that people talk about. Definitely, you want to get sleep in as much as possible, and cardio training. I do resistance training and I do cardio. Mondays and Tuesdays, I do my weight training. Today is like Wednesday, I take that day off. Thursday and Friday, I'll do some light cardio. Maybe work the legs a little bit. And that kind of puts you in that way, you're maintaining muscle mass, you're giving yourself a reasonable amount of cardio, and also, they tell you get plenty of sleep. I can agree with this to a certain point, but the issue with me is, I don't know, ever since the military, I don't sleep that long. 5 hours, 6 hours for me, that was a long night. The days, I think prior to me going in the military back in 87, I think that was the last times I had those days where I was sleeping 8 hours to 9 hours. Ever since I got out, I don't sleep that long no more. 6 to 8, 6, sometimes 8. Once in a blue moon, I might just oversleep because I'm just that exhausted. But 6 hour days typically all I can, that all I ever could swing. So they do tell you that sleep is definitely important, and I agree with that because it allows your body to recover, it replenishes muscles, and it just gives your body that full reboot that it needs with all the work you're doing in between. But I will say that this whole thing is just a lot of discipline, you know? And I will always tell people you don't want to overthink it because some people go over the top with prepping for this medication, you know? And not knowing, you know, without knowing oneself. So you want to see where you are and adjust. You know what I'm saying? Figure out your sweet spot. I did a lot of research in the beginning, and I was trying to learn about all these different things. And you do learn a lot from all the people out there. I'm just one piece of this puzzle, you know? I'm just like this one person, a large group of folks out there posting these videos, giving you their personal rundown on what they're going through with this medication. Some of them are going to give you the good, bad, and the ugly on this whole thing. You know, some people are going to have bad experiences. Some people are going to tell you that they've had a lot of problems. You know, but you can't, like me in the beginning, I was thinking the worst. I was thinking that this is, oh my God, this is going to be, like, I literally was getting the jitters because, like, thinking, like, oh, what is this going to be like? And even when you take that 2.5 milligram shot, you just, it's kind of like, well, here goes nothing. And then you take the shot, but the 2.5 milligram, like I told you the last time, that's just to get your body used to it. You know, it's just let's get everybody together and shake hands and introduce ourselves type of thing. You're not meant to see anything on that dose. Because a lot of people, you know, may take 2.5 milligram and think like, well, hey, I'm not noticing anything. You might get a couple little episodes where you feel like you don't have hunger or you don't have that food noise or you feel full, but it's just brief. And then you don't start really noticing that till the next dose. Like, I'm starting to see it now. Like, in the last couple of days, I'm starting to notice that my appetite suppresses easier. I mean, I'll still be happy to, like, have, like, you know, I'll take a sugarless candy, like a Lifesaver or a Jolly Rancher. They're sugarless. I might have just something like that just for flavor, but all day yesterday, I had no desire to eat anything. Like, I was on the road. Normally, when I would be on the road at work, I'm usually always keeping a lunch bag with me, trying to have something extra. Like, oh, yeah, I get bored, or I got to have cookies or whatever, you know, whether it's that or I used to take the bags of the Cheetos and stuff like that. Just had to have something while I was on the road. I was like, you know, it's the first time I can remember in a long time that I'm just riding around and I don't care about eating. It was weird. Again, I had my water with me. That was it. So shockingly, that helps. So again, it's just know what you're dealing with. Do your homework. I did a lot of that, and I learned everybody's different, and you're going to find different things in different ways. In regards to you veterans out there like myself, if you're fortunate enough that the VA, you know, finds you're in that area where your BMI is high enough for them to prescribe you one of these GLP-1s, especially Zepbound, I can tell you this: it's very more organized, or very much more organized than if you went to, you know, outside of it. Because when you go through your private doctor or anything like that, they're gonna give you a lot of them. They'll just bump you up because they just figure, you know, the insurance pays for it if you're fortunate enough for them to do that. You know, I think for us veterans, we are very fortunate that the VA, you know, if you qualify, covers this, because I can tell you, like, I'm looking at the prices people pay out there and the headaches people go through trying to leaps and bounds trying to get this stuff. I mean, my bill for this thing comes out to $11 a month. $11 for what some people are paying $1,000 for a prescription like this. And I used to think when I was in the service, there was times when I just says, I hate this business, like I can't play this soldier shit no more, But I'm very glad I had, well, a good older brother that was, behind me to kick my ass if I was willing to jump out of getting out of the military, and a first sergeant when I was in AIT that also just says you ain't getting out. We got you get bored and then you just like you start trying to fall off the tracks and not want to do what you're supposed to, and like let them throw me out. I don't care. And then the first sergeant was just kind of like, yeah, he ain't getting. My company commander was ready to sign me out, and he was like, no, you're not. He goes, there's nothing wrong with this guy. He's gonna stay and he's gonna finish out his term. And I did, and I look back on it, and I thank him and my brother for being on my ass about that, because something like this would not have been possible. It's truly a great attribute to have something like this covered. I wasn't even sure I was going to get it. I just wanted something to control my appetite, and they started me on Qsimia. That just wasn't working because it has stimulants in it, and it just wasn't working. It was like it made me too jittery, palpitations, and it just you feel like total crap when you take that stuff. And the last thing in the world I thought was that they were going to give me a I keep screwing that up, GLP-1 medication. So when they told me, yeah, your BMI, you qualify for that, in my mind, I'm like, no shit, really? I'm thinking like, this has got to be the luckiest break I ever caught. And going forward, they follow up with you. You get up, every couple of months or every 2 or 3 months, you get you got to go through the meetings, talk about your progress. You communicate with your pharmacist. It's communicated through your doctor. Everything's, checked and regulated. So you're always on the right path. You know what I'm saying? You're going to always, you got it monitored. So you're not going, the brutal side effects and things. You're not overstepping your boundaries, and everything works to a specific standard. So that's the good news. But other than that, so far, I mean, with this 5 milligram, doing good so far. I mean, from the health stories I've seen with some people, I think this has been a pretty good journey so far, as they say. I think definitely it's everybody's their own individual, and we're not all the same, but everybody's going to react a certain way. So for right now, I'm at the 5 milligrams. So hopefully, let's see how that goes. As I said, I was at 226 the other day. So like I said, it was 226.2. So, I mean, we're talking about inching closer to 225 pounds. That means hopefully maybe by the next video or something, I might hopefully be down another 5 pounds average, which again, my goal is somewhere towards the end of the year. I would like to be as close as I can be to 200. And from what I've seen, it looks like that's not so, unachievable. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And here's the funny thing. I used to get nervous thinking like taking this little jab and stuff was going to be a big deal. I actually look forward to it. Because it doesn't hurt at all. I mean, it is just so painless. It's like it's a joke. People get worried about that at first. They're like, oh, I've seen people put ice on it and stuff like that. It's like, you don't need to do it. The thing has such a fast, powerful spring. It goes in so quickly, you don't feel the pinch. The only thing you feel is when that little plunger goes down and goes gray. And that's just the injection itself taking place. After that, you take the thing away. There's like no marks, nothing. It's the most pleasant, sensation of knowing that this thing doesn't hurt. Some people might get a little paranoid and say, it hurts me. It didn't bother me. So if any of you, for taking it for the first time, might have a little concern with that, believe me, the bark is bigger than the bite with that whole thing. You don't feel it. In fact, you literally will get to a point where you think you're not doing it right. Until you see that little plunger go down, where you see the little gray thing push the liquid through the rest of the vial, you think that you didn't do it right, because you're like, I didn't even feel it. But it's there. And believe me, if you do what it's telling you, which is not quantum physics, it does its job. And you will see the results before you know it. So all I will tell you on this is, so far so good. And if any of you guys got any comments, feel free to ask. I can tell you to the best of my abilities, at least for what's working for me or how I've done certain things. If you got any questions, feel free to ask. Again, it's the second video, so I hope to have many more on many other things. But as far as this weight loss journey, this so far is working great. And once again, I'll leave you off with the other thing. Anybody that's been doing it a while, if you get the people out there that try to tell you that you're cheating, you're not. I feel that you have to have still a high level of discipline to take this medication, because you got to be monitoring your protein intake. You have to be monitoring your carbs, your water intake above all, making sure you're getting proper fiber, making sure you're getting plenty of exercise, making sure you're doing resistance training along with that. There's all these things that come into play. Here's the best part. Last week I did I went on I guess you could call it a gig for my job, where they had the Dunkin' Donuts, big box of them. Normally I would never turn those down. I looked at those days like I had I just told myself I'm not eating that. Then over Easter Sunday, of course, had cake over here and everything at my house that was brought over. Didn't touch the cake, didn't touch donuts, didn't touch cookies. Everything that I was eating of sweets was sugarless stuff that I had in my own archives, I didn't have anything that somebody brought over. And normally that's a fight that you have to have with yourself. Like, I gotta avoid eating this. I can't eat this. I had no desire to eat it. But people, that's not cheating. That's discipline. I mean, it's great if you have something to help turn off that food noise. But it takes a certain layer of discipline, because you got to remember to eat. You got to remember to make sure you're getting the food. Sometimes even I do that. You get caught up late in the day and you're like, man, I got to get caught up on my food. Like, you got to eat, but sometimes you just don't find the time to do it. Whereas other times you usually heap food right next to you like I used to do, in a little lunch bag, keeping the food next to me. Like, all right, let's see. I got some cookies here. I got some chocolate here. Definitely, it takes a level of discipline. And for people that are on regular diets, that I've seen posts out there where someone will say, yeah, well, you can certainly go out there and have a regular diet, and I've been on a diet and I can discipline myself not to eat these things. You know what? There was a time when I was able to do that shit too. I was able to go out there, on a specific diet, and I was able to get down to 208 pounds from, I think, 230 or 235 at the time. Yeah, that was all well and good. Sometimes after time goes on, your mindset doesn't work like that no more. It becomes more acclimated to food noise, and that commands and dictates the whole show. And sometimes conventional wisdom just does not work. So it doesn't matter what people think. In fact, if I were you, be like myself. Like, I'll tell you I'm taking it. I don't care. It's like, I'm trying to stay healthier. I'm trying to, take an approach to proper dieting or at least proper nutrition, and using this as a tool. It's not the catalyst. It's just a tool. This is just to help me get to that point. But be not ashamed of what you do, because you're trying to help yourself. Cheating is, okay, these guys that are on these diets, or whoever it may be, They're on these diets, and yeah, they lost weight, blah, blah, blah. They ride past the McDonald's. Hey, I'm going to have a cheat day. I'm going over there. I'm going to have myself a Big Mac or whatever. You know, and then all of a sudden it's like they have that and then they feel guilty. Like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that. Now, you know, I don't have to feel that guilt because when I look at a Burger King or a McDonald's, I don't have a desire to eat it. And that's not to say that I never will, but, you know, time will come when I eventually will do something like that. Just, you know, like, hey, for old time's sake. But that's when I hit my goal, not before. So don't worry about what people say or think of you. They're not paying your bills. They're not putting food on your table. They're not putting clothes on your back. None of that. You do what you got to do, what works right for you. Okay? That's the most important thing that you have to remember. Once you keep that mindset, you don't give a crap what other people say. It's all about taking care of yourself. All right? So until the next time, we will see you again in the near future and hopefully with some updates on my current progress as we move along. Happy joy.